What if everything you've ever experienced, every memory, every sensation, every thought, is not real? What if you, your body, the Earth, the stars, the entire universe, is nothing more than lines of code running on some unimaginably advanced computer? What if you were a simulated consciousness inside a digital reality, programmed by an advanced civilization you'll never meet? This isn't just science fiction. It's a serious philosophical and scientific hypothesis. The simulation hypothesis proposes that what we experience as the real world is actually a simulated reality, such as a computer simulation in which humans are conscious programs. And some of the world's smartest people, physicists, philosophers, tech billionaires, think it might be true. Elon Musk famously claimed there's a 1 in billions chance we're living in base reality. Philosopher Nick Bostrom argues we're almost certainly inside a simulation, and recent experiments suggest we might soon have actual physical evidence, glitches in the code, error-correcting algorithms hidden in physics, compression patterns in DNA that look suspiciously like software optimization. If they're right, reality as you know it is an illusion, a hyper-realistic video game. And you're not a biological being, you're a program, a character in someone else's world. Welcome to the most unsettling idea in modern philosophy. Are we living in a simulation? The simulation hypothesis sounds absurd at first, but when you examine the logic, it becomes disturbingly plausible. The argument comes from Nick Bostrom, a philosopher at Oxford University, who published his simulation argument in 2003. Bostrom doesn't claim we are in a simulation. He argues that one of three propositions must be true. First, either such simulations are not created because of technological limitations or self-destruction. Second, advanced civilizations choose not to create them. Third, if advanced civilizations do create them, the number of simulations would far exceed base reality, and we would therefore almost certainly be living in one. This is probability theory, not speculation. If even one advanced civilization decides to run ancestor simulations, detailed recreations of their evolutionary history, they would likely run thousands or millions of them. The ratio of simulated beings to real beings would be astronomically high. So if you're conscious right now, which is more likely, that you're one of a handful of beings in base reality, or one of trillions in simulations. The math says simulation. Bostrom's argument assumes that consciousness is not uniquely tied to biological brains, but can arise from any system that implements the right computational structures and processes. If consciousness is computational, if it emerges from information processing, not biology, then a sufficiently advanced simulation could produce genuine conscious experience. You wouldn't know you're simulated. Your qualia, your subjective experiences, would feel completely real. Because from the simulation's perspective, they are real. Bostrom claims his argument goes beyond the classical skeptical hypothesis. He says we have interesting empirical reasons to believe that a certain disjunctive claim about the world is true. Thus, Bostrom, and writers in agreement with him, such as philosopher David Chalmers, argue there might be empirical reasons for the simulation hypothesis, and that therefore the simulation hypothesis is not a skeptical hypothesis, but rather a metaphysical hypothesis. Elon Musk is less cautious. In 2016, he stated that the odds we're living in base reality are 1 in billions. His reasoning: video games have advanced from Pong in the 1970s to photorealistic virtual worlds today. If technology continues improving, indistinguishable from reality simulations are inevitable. And once they exist, they'll vastly outnumber base reality. It seems absurd at first reading, but Musk's theory actually comes from Bostrom's well-regarded philosophical argument. Bostrom himself is less convinced than Musk that we're living in a computer-simulated reality. He says, My view is that we don't have strong enough evidence to rule out any of these three possibilities. But given that most philosophical academic journal papers languish on shelves in dusty libraries, Bostrom says it's flattering to hear his argument espoused by Musk. Bostrom emphasizes that, if we are in a simulation, it wouldn't just be in a metaphorical sense. It would be in a very literal sense that we ourselves and all this world around us that we see and hear and smell exists inside a computer built by some advanced civilization. This is not virtual reality as we know it, where you wear goggles and know you're in a game. This is total ontological simulation. Your brain is simulated. Your neurons are simulated. Your thoughts are computations within a greater computation. There is no real you outside the simulation. You are the simulation. Now, you might dismiss this as unfalsifiable philosophy. If we're in a perfect simulation, we'd never know, right? But recent developments suggest otherwise. Physicist Melvin Vopson has proposed an experiment that could provide the first real, physical evidence that our universe is a simulation. Vopson's theory is that information has mass, not metaphorical mass, actual physical mass. He calculates that information contributes to the mass-energy content of systems. If true, this could be tested. And if information behaves in ways consistent with computational optimization rather than natural physics, that's a clue we're in a simulation. One piece of evidence: compression patterns in biology. DNA, viruses, and genetic mutations exhibit self-compressing behavior, removing redundancy, optimizing storage, just like a computer algorithm would. Vopson notes that viral mutations often result in more compact genetic code, as if the system is minimizing information content. This is not what you'd expect from random natural selection. It's what you'd expect from a programmed system optimizing for computational efficiency. From self-compressing genetic code to actual computer error-correcting algorithms hidden in the laws of physics, the signs are no longer just philosophical. Even more striking, physicist James Gates discovered error-correcting code embedded in the equations of supersymmetry. Error-correcting codes are used in computing to detect and fix data corruption. They're not natural, they're designed. Yet Gates found them in the mathematical structure of fundamental physics. It's as if the universe is checking itself for bugs. Protecting the simulation from corruption. This is not metaphor. These are literal block codes, the same kind used in web browsers and data transmission. Why would they appear in the deep structure of reality unless reality is computational? Then there's the observer effect in quantum mechanics. Particles exist in superposition, multiple states at once, until observed. Then they collapse to one state. This is exactly how a video game renders graphics. The game doesn't compute what you're not looking at. It saves processing power by only rendering your field of view. Reality might work the same way. The universe doesn't waste computational resources simulating things no one observes. Quantum physics experiments suggest reality only exists when observed. Before measurement, there's only probability. After measurement, reality crystallizes. This is consistent with a simulated universe optimizing computation. The cosmic microwave background, the afterglow of the Big Bang, contains anomalies. One is the CMB cold spot, a region colder than the surrounding space, with no known physical explanation. Some speculate it's a glitch, unrendered space, a region where the simulation's resolution drops, like when you push a video game too far and it glitches. The cold spot's eerie similarity to unrendered space in simulations is unsettling. Artificial intelligence is beginning to reveal similar patterns. AI systems trained in virtual environments sometimes discover exploits, ways to break the rules of their simulated world. They weren't trying to hack, they were just optimizing for their goals. But in doing so, They discovered glitches that revealed the artificial nature of their world. If we're conscious agents in a simulation, we might be doing exactly the same thing through scientific discovery, unconsciously probing the boundaries of our reality and finding the glitches that reveal its programmed nature. It's as if we're seeing the same underlying architecture revealed through different windows, the signature of a programmed reality breaking through at every level of investigation. But in December 2025, a new mathematical framework emerged that complicates everything. Santa Fe Institute professor David Wolpert published the first mathematically precise framework for what it would mean for one universe to simulate another. His results point to a far stranger landscape than previous arguments suggest, including the possibility that a universe capable of simulating another could itself be perfectly reproduced inside that very simulation. Wolpert says, this entire debate lacked basic mathematical scaffolding. Once you build that scaffolding, the problem becomes clearer and far more interesting. At the core of his approach is a shift in perspective. Instead of treating universes as physical systems with unknowable inner workings, treat them as kinds of computers. This lets Wolpert ground his model in the physical Church-Turing thesis, which holds that any physical process we can observe could, in principle, be reproduced by a standard computer program. Seen through this lens, the simulation question becomes a computational one, and mathematics, rather than speculation, sets the boundaries of what is possible. The framework also challenges a popular belief that deeper levels of simulation must be computationally weaker than the levels above them, an argument often used to claim that such chains must eventually terminate. Wolpert shows that this isn't required by the mathematics. Simulations do not have to degrade, and infinite chains of simulated universes remain fully consistent within the theory. You could have universes simulating universes ad infinitum, or even more bizarre, closed loops. Universe A simulates universe B, which simulates universe C, which simulates universe A. A simulation Ouroboros. This raises the question of whether it's possible not only to have infinite chains of simulated universes, but whether it's possible to have closed loops of such universes simulating universes. Wolpert's work doesn't offer experimental tests or predictions. Instead, it provides a conceptual foundation that future philosophers, physicists, and computer scientists can build on. By formalizing what the simulation hypothesis actually asserts, the framework also suggests new questions, and it shows that some confident claims, like simulations must terminate, or we can't be in a simulation within a simulation, are mathematically unfounded. Meanwhile, in November 2025, physicists at UBC Okanagan claimed to have mathematically demonstrated that the universe cannot be simulated. Using Gödel's incompleteness theorem, they argued that any system complex enough to simulate the universe would contain undecidable propositions, statements that can't be proven true or false within the system. This, they claim, makes a complete simulation impossible. However, critics note, this assumes the simulation must be complete and consistent. A simulation could be incomplete or inconsistent in ways we don't detect. Gödel's theorem might limit what can be simulated, but it doesn't rule out that we're in an incomplete simulation. Right now, the debate is far from settled. Some philosophers argue the simulation hypothesis is unfalsifiable and therefore unscientific. If the simulators are sufficiently advanced, they could hide all evidence. Any glitch, any anomaly could be explained away. Others argue falsifiability isn't the only criterion for a good hypothesis. The multiverse, string theory, and other accepted theories aren't directly testable either. Science often deals with inference to the best explanation. If the simulation hypothesis better explains observed phenomena, quantum mechanics, fine-tuning, computational patterns in nature, it deserves consideration. There's also a practical question: does it matter? Philosopher David Chalmers reminds us that even if we are living in a simulation, it doesn't diminish the meaning of our existence, our experiences, our relationships, our consciousness. If your pain is simulated, it still hurts. If your love is simulated, it's still real to you. The simulation is your reality. You have no other. Whether the substrate is biological neurons or silicon circuits, your subjective experience is genuine. You are conscious. You exist. That's what matters. But if we are in a simulation, it raises profound questions. Who are the simulators? Why did they create us? Are they watching? Do they intervene? Are they benevolent, indifferent, or hostile? Some speculate the simulators are our descendants, running ancestor simulations to study their past. Others suggest we're part of a scientific experiment, a game, or a test. Religious thinkers draw parallels to creation myths. Perhaps the simulators are gods in a literal sense, creators of our reality. And then there's the terrifying possibility: we could be shut down. If we're a program, we can be paused, saved, deleted. Our entire universe could end with the press of a button. Or maybe we're already being saved and reloaded, our memories reset each time. You'd never know. Every moment could be the first time, and you'd have no memory of previous iterations. Philosopher Nick Bostrom is not particularly concerned that our reality might be simulated, but others find it existentially disturbing. If we are in a simulation, could we ever escape? Computer scientist Roman Yampolsky weighed up our options in a 2023 paper. He concluded, escape is theoretically possible, but extraordinarily unlikely. You'd need to understand the simulation's code, exploit a vulnerability, and communicate with the outside world, all while the simulators try to stop you. It's like a video game character trying to hack its way out of the game. Possible in principle, but the odds are stacked against you. Still, some argue that discovering we're in a simulation would be the greatest achievement in human history. It would answer fundamental questions about reality, consciousness, and existence, and it might open pathways to technologies we can't yet imagine, if we can communicate with or manipulate the simulation's code. So where does this leave us? The simulation hypothesis remains unproven, but not implausible. The philosophical argument is sound. The technological trajectory suggests realistic simulations are possible, and tantalizing hints, quantum mechanics, error-correcting codes, compression in biology, suggest our universe has computational properties. Whether this constitutes proof is debatable, but the question is no longer absurd, it's legitimate, and it forces us to confront the nature of reality itself. If we are in a simulation, it's important to understand that it wouldn't be a shallow illusion. It would be a deep, intricate, fully functional reality, our reality. The stars are real. Your thoughts are real. Your life is real, just running on a different substrate than you assumed. And if we're not in a simulation, if this is base reality, that's equally profound. It means consciousness arose naturally, from matter and energy. It means we're not created, we evolved. It means there's no higher power watching, no greater purpose. We're alone, responsible for our own meaning. Either way, the simulation hypothesis teaches humility. Whether we're programs or particles, we exist within constraints we don't fully understand. Our reality might be someone else's experiment, or it might be all there is. We can't be certain. And that uncertainty is part of being human, living with mystery, searching for truth, knowing we might never find it, but asking anyway. Because the question itself, are we real, is what makes us conscious, what makes us matter, what makes us human, or at least what makes us think we are.